Today, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz cynically spoke about how Vladimir Zelensky could sell the surrender of Ukrainian territories to Vladimir Putin to the Ukrainian people. In particular, Merz suggested that Zelensky simply link the issue of territorial concessions to the prospect of joining the European Union, saying that one is impossible without the other. And supposedly it's not him, meaning not Zelensky, who wants this, but the European Union. But the problem here is that, according to this same Friedrich Merz, the idea of Ukraine joining the EU before January 1, 2027, which President Zelensky voiced, is too optimistic. He believes that joining even before 2028 is unrealistic. Meanwhile, other European officials are unanimously saying that the Ukrainian armed forces would be an excellent shield for Europe against the Russians. But, as they say, to avoid turning this into just loud, controversial statements, I suggest we analyze all of this together. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, please subscribe to the channel, like this episode, and leave any comment under this video. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, I will not start this episode with the words of Friedrich Merz, but with statements from other European officials and military personnel who actually create the context for what Merz said. For example, today the European Commissioner for Defense, Andrius Kubilius, stated that there is no point in even discussing any plans for the reconstruction of Ukraine until a realistic plan for Ukraine's victory has been developed. That is why he is calling on the European Union to immediately increase assistance to Ukraine in all areas, especially on the front lines. Next is a quote from Kubilius. There is no need for a strategy to rebuild Ukraine if there is no European strategy for achieving a just peace. For the successful reconstruction of Ukraine, it is necessary to join the single European market as soon as possible. Ukraine's integration into the EU is our strategic, vital interest, and this is directly connected to our strategic interest in becoming capable of defense and ready to deter possible Russian attacks in the near future. It is important to integrate Ukrainian and European defense industrial capabilities right now. At the same time, the head of the NATO Military Committee, Admiral Giuseppe Cavo-Dragone, stated that Ukraine has now become a provider of security, and during joint exercises with NATO, Ukrainian military personnel are becoming instructors for alliance forces. The Admiral added that Ukraine is already making a huge contribution to security. Admiral Dragone emphasized that even though Ukraine is extremely busy on the front lines, it is still sharing its tremendous experience with NATO through the Joint Center for Analysis, Training and Education. And now I'll quote the Admiral. This is a very common practice. The Ukrainians act as the simulated enemy in counter-drone exercises. And I have to say, we were in for some surprises because they proved to be a very serious opponent. We are learning and taking lessons from Ukraine. Look at their actions in the Persian Gulf, where they are helping local countries repel air attacks from Iran. So now Ukraine really is a security provider. And so it would seem, if that's the case, why doesn't the European Union just accept Ukraine as a new member right now? Instead, on April 20, the Financial Times wrote that France and Germany are in favor of granting Ukraine an intermediate status on the path to joining the EU. Specifically, they support partial integration and symbolic benefits without the key rights of a full member of the Union, but with the obligations of mutual defense in case of a war between Russia and Europe. And against this backdrop, today the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, suggested that as part of a peace agreement, Ukraine would have to agree to the loss of control over part of its territory. According to him, President Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky may link such concessions to the prospect of joining the European Union. In fact, Merz is urging Zelensky to sell Ukrainians the idea of territorial concessions to Russia as a ticket to the European Union. Next is a quote from Merz that will definitely surprise you. At a certain point, Ukraine will sign a ceasefire agreement. At a certain point, hopefully also a peace treaty. Then it may happen that part of Ukraine's territory will no longer be Ukrainian. If President Zelensky wants to convey this to his own people and get a majority for it, and he needs to hold a referendum on this issue, then he must simultaneously tell his people, I have opened the way to Europe for you. So the idea is that Merz is actually just suggesting to force the Ukrainians to come to terms with the loss of territory for the sake of illusory EU membership. Why illusory? I'll explain now. Friedrich Merz stated that the idea of Ukraine joining the EU by January 1, 2027, which was voiced by President Volodymyr Zelensky, is too optimistic. He believes that joining even by 2028 is unrealistic. At the same time, Merz voiced something that few people want to hear. But that's the reality, and everyone should accept it so as not to live in illusions. Next, I'll give another quote from Merz. Zelensky put forward the idea of joining the EU on January 1, 2027. That won't work. Even January 1, 2028 is unrealistic. I want to warn against inflated expectations. A country cannot become a member of the European Union while a war is ongoing. And before joining, Ukraine must meet all the necessary conditions, in particular ensure compliance with the principles of the rule of law and achieve significant progress in the fight against corruption. And next, I will mention that a peaceful settlement of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia may require territorial concessions from Ukraine, and this issue may require a referendum. Well, in order for Ukrainians to vote for giving up Ukrainian territories to Russia and not overthrow Volodymyr Zelensky in the process, Europe is ready to give guarantees from the European Union regarding the prospects of Ukraine's membership, not actual membership, but the prospect that someday Ukraine will become a member of the European Union. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or a paid channel membership. You can find the links and payment details in the description of this video. There are various options available, or you can use the QR code on your screen. This is the easiest way to support the work of this channel. I would be grateful for that. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.